It is March the 15th. It's plastic laying day. So this is a big day for us. A lot to do. It's cool but sunny, a little bit breezy. But I'm going to show you the whole process here. All right, I have re-hipped the plastic beds ahead of the plastic layer. You want fresh dirt, and we want to make it a little bit bigger than what we had it before. So if you can see right here, this groove and this groove over here is 48 inches wide. It's going to fit perfect in the tractor that's pulling the plastic layer. And so that will kind of give him a groove to stay in. That little tractor doesn't have any guidance, but the rows are straight and he can just follow that groove. It's a big row, if you can tell. Well, it's going to be hard to tell how big it is, but it's a big row. You want it tall in the middle, and you want it wide. You want as much dirt there for that plastic laying machine to grab. Because if it doesn't have enough dirt in the middle, it's not going to pull the plastic tight, and it's not going to make the row big enough. We changed the pitch as far as the angle on our little tool here that we use to set up the rows. That throws the dirt higher in the middle, makes the row taller. And then, like I said, we spread these wings out wider than we had initially when we first did it a week ago. That way it throws up enough dirt. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a tall row and a wide row ahead of the plastic machine. It makes it so much nicer whenever the plastic is laid. You know, the plastic obviously can blow up, but as long as it's tight and there's no gaps in that row as far as the middle or the edges, if everything is full and tight, then you have a lot better chance of it not blowing up in a storm. All right, it takes one person on the end, one person riding. Person on the end is holding the plastic and the drip tape just to kind of get him started. And there you go, right there. All right, on the ends of the row, we have to cover it up with the shovel with the dirt. Right there where we started and where we ended. You can see throwing the dirt right on the shoulder, kind of on the top of the edge of the plastic, which is fine. That means it's covered good. When it rains, it'll wash it right off the edges right there. And it's going to be hard to tell, but it's very full, very hard. Right on the top of the bed, it's got a little bit of a crown right here. And that drip tape is right off to the side, about that far, and it's buried about that deep. So that'll be the water line right there. All right, on each row, we leave a piece of drip tape sticking out so we can see it whenever it's pressured up. We can see each row and know that the water's getting to the end. We just cut a little piece off, fold it over, slide it on right here, and that kind of cuts it off, you know, so the water stops right there. It's just kind of like a little cutoff valve. But you'll be able to see the water dripping whenever we get the water on the end of the row. And that way you know everything's fine with that row right there. He has to cut the plastic right there whenever we get to the end, and the drip tape. See, he's holding the plastic and the drip tape right there, just until it gets going. All right, just so you understand what the black plastic is for, we put a fumigation underneath it right now while we're laying the plastic. That's what those bottles are on the plastic machine. It kills the nematodes and some soil diseases underneath the bed of the plastic there. By doing that, that allows us to use this same field year after year. That's very important for us to be able to do that. But the plastic holds in that gas. The gas will be gone in a few days, long before we start planting. It holds in the moisture all season long. We irrigate, you know, with this drip tape right here. And if you can see, it's got a seam right here. On the flip side, it's smooth. This seam is where the emitters are. Every 12 inches, it drips right here. And so it holds the moisture all season long under this black plastic. And the black also heats the beds and makes them warmer, which allows the plants to grow and grow faster. And it keeps the weeds out. So all of those things are important, and that's kind of what the black plastic is for. Now, the plastic machine throws the dirt right here. The plastic has got a lip underneath the ground right here on each side, and it throws the dirt on the side, and that's what holds it tight. And because the soil has a little bit of moisture in it, and because we had plenty, like we talked about, there's plenty of dirt on the top, plenty on the sides, and it holds it tight. And it'll be there till we pull it up at the end of the season, whenever we're finished. Right here, the soil is still a little bit loose, so that first rain will kind of pack it down, and after that it's not going anywhere. Sometimes we do get a little nervous whenever we get a hard thunderstorm, blowing rain. You know, you don't want that soil to wash off because it's still loose. But once it gets wet that first time, it's there. All right, you can see right here in those grooves that I talked about, it fits perfect with that tractor and just keeps it perfectly straight. There's the bottles that I talked about with the fumigation. And the rider is making sure those gauge wheels on the side are in place. Also making sure that the drip tape doesn't get twisted. And also to holler at the driver when the drip tape and the plastic gets low, that way we can splice it in. So that's what the rider's for. Glad to have that finished, and all of the crops in our greenhouse, or a lot of them, will go right on this plastic. So the next step will be getting all of our water lines hooked up and getting all those tested out and flushed out and pressured up and checked for leaks and all that kind of stuff. Plus we'll be putting out some herbicide pretty soon in the middles. But now I'm going to show you how we spray underneath the peach trees with some herbicide, and also going to show you our first sweet corn planting. This is what we use to spray underneath the peach trees, herbicide. That right there is a 5-foot wide hood, and it sprays a strip right underneath the trees like that. We do it on both sides. You can see it's got a skirting that rides right on the ground, so it doesn't allow for any drift to get out and get on the trees. That's very important. It's got 3 nozzles right there, 20 inches wide on each one. 1, so that's 60 inches, 5 foot. We built this ourselves, mounted a tank on a hitch and a rack and built a boom and secured it with that cable, and it works good. It runs off of an electric pump. There's an electric pump right there mounted. This is a view from the front. What it will do, it'll leave a grass strip right here where we drive, that we won't spray, and then we'll just come back and mow it. We have a cutter that fits across here, and just one swath through there will mow it. Yeah, you can kind of see this is the edge of the hood. But we got this hump, right here, where the trees sit on, so it doesn't get that strip right there. You go down the other side of the tree, to get up to about the edge of there, and over here to get up to about the edge of there, so it leaves that space right there that we can't spray. So we came up with another little deal. We call it our peach dolly. Just mounted it on a dolly, a trigger and some pipe and a hood with some skirting around it with a couple of nozzles. It's got the tank there in the back of the mule. We try to keep it as clean as possible underneath the peach trees. We have to do this spraying every so often throughout the year. We just kind of do it as we need to periodically. There's no real schedule. But it eliminates the grass and weeds under the trees, keeps them healthy, eliminates the competition. That's like with any other kind of crop. So our little way of doing it works pretty good. This is what I use to plant my sweet corn with. It's a 1-row vacuum planter. Anytime we're planting seed, we're either planting with a 1-row or we're planting with my 8-row planter over here. But when we're not dealing with a lot of seed at one time, it's a lot easier to plant it with a 1-row. That way you don't have to fill up all 8 hoppers when we're planting smaller blocks. So this vacuum planter does a really good job of placing the seed exactly how far apart you want it. It's got a vacuum that runs off the PTO on the tractor and a fan. This planter will plant seed all the way as small as a mustard and turnip seed up to a watermelon, pumpkin, pinto bean seed, and everything in between. So it's very versatile. It will plant a lot of different size seed, and we'll put them at a lot of different spacings that you want them. All right, we are out here in the field now getting started, checking the depth of the seed and the spacing. I have it set for 7.5 inches, and you can tell that it's right on the money there. And the seed depth is about 2 inches. That's about how deep we're planting them right there. All right, you should be able to tell that we've run over these rows with the do-all, which levels up the top of the bed, drags it off, makes a nice seed bed to plant in. You can tell these are some rows that have been hipped up that haven't had anything done to them. That's what we'll plant our next sweet corn next to it in a couple of weeks over there. But we didn't show you the do-all on the camera, but that's what it looks like after it's been run over. Makes a nice bed. The variety of sweet corn we plant is Remedy. It's a bicolored corn, which is a yellow and white mix, which to me is the best. That's my personal preference. So we've always planted the bicolored corn. We'll plant several plantings of it, several weeks apart, and kind of give it a consistent supply for a few weeks in the summer. Usually the corn will start kind of at the beginning when we open up to the public. It'll be one of the first things that's ready, but it'll also be one of the first things that's over in the summer. We don't keep it going all the way until we're closed. We'll usually run out of corn maybe the week after the 4th of July, somewhere around in there, as long as our schedule stays on track. Anytime you're planting with a planter, putting seed in the ground, obviously you cannot see the seed, and you don't know if everything's working the way it's supposed to be without some type of monitor. And so, like with our 8-row planter, we have a monitor that's mounted here in the tractor that will tell us anytime one of the rows is messing up or the seed's not dropping. But with this planter that I'm using now, it didn't have a monitor. So I kind of rigged up something that works pretty good, and I'm going to show you how that works here in a minute. So I put a seed sensor in the seed tube, which is the tube between the hopper and the ground, and I have a seed sensor tester that we use on our other planter, where you can plug it in to each row and drop a seed like at the shop when you're working on it to make sure everything's working. So I hooked that up in the cab here with me, wired it back to the planter, and so I have a monitor, but it works in reverse. Normally a monitor will beep or something when something's wrong. Well, with the seed sensor tester, it beeps when a seed drops. So the way I have it hooked up now, it beeps all the time. So I'm fixing to show you, but it gets a little bit annoying, but I don't use it that much in this application, so it's not that big a deal. But as long as the seed sensor tester is beeping with the yellow light on, I know that the seed is dropping, and I know that everything's working. Okay, there's the seed sensor tester. You can hear it, and the yellow light is on, so that lets me know that the seed is dropping. And there may have been a whole lot of confusion. I don't know, I may not have done a good job of explaining it, but my point was, you always want to make sure your seed is dropping, that something hasn't come loose, something hasn't been stopped up. That's the way I do it here on this 1-row planter. All right, we're through planting the corn. I'm headed back to the shop now to get my spray tractor and come back and put out my pre-emergent herbicide on top of the corn. We've got rain coming in probably in a few hours, so we need to get that done before it rains. All right, we're here to spray the sweet corn now. We're putting out pre-emerge herbicide. What that means, it's a herbicide that kills weeds before they come up, or keeps them from coming up. Pre-emerge herbicides have no activity on anything that's already up and growing, but our field is clean right now, and so it takes a rain to activate almost any pre-emerge herbicide. So we'll spray it over the top of where we've just planted, and then we got rain coming in later today, and that rain will activate it and make it start working. So we use a lot of pre-emerge herbicides on a lot of different things, and the only kicker is it takes a rain to activate it. And so if you get a dry spell in the spring and you're putting out your herbicides, then you may get a stretch where it doesn't work. And if you've got weeds that come up before that activation takes place, then it's not going to kill those weeds. So That's what we're doing now. We spray 14 rows at a time with my boom here, and we're on 38-inch rows on the sweet corn. This is my pressure gauge over here with my switch that turns my spray on and off, and then I've got the 3 different controls right here that I can control the section of the boom if I want to, left, middle, and right. So I mentioned we got rain coming in later today, so that's going to wrap it up on this video. I appreciate everyone watching. Hope y'all will subscribe to us, and see y'all next time.